Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in for this 4 o'clock Wednesday afternoon show. I'd like to thank Jennifer Lawless and Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea for coming in, and I'd like to thank my next guest, John Flaherty with GrowSmart Rhode Island.
Hello,
Thank
Kate.
you so much.
Good to see you.
Clearly you've got some resources at hand here because we're going to be talking about a new survey done in conjunction with Roger Williams looking at transit-oriented development areas in the state, in particular 5 cities. The opportunities, the constraints, the challenges. Let's talk about the impetus for the study and how it was conducted.
Sure. So we are actually located at Roger Williams University, and we have access to students. And so GrowSmart and Housing Works recognize that Rhode Island has a shortage of housing. Where are we going to accommodate more housing if we want to see some growth? And so we looked at the opportunities in Rhode Island for doing transit-oriented development, which is really housing and commerce, this mixed-use compact development around nodes where transit exists or is planned.
And how important is that? It's funny, people come through traffic on 95 at any given time. Is this really, as you said, the need for more housing is to look at how to address it or those congestion and transportation issues?
Yeah, it was transportation, and it's also availability of housing stock. So in 2016, Housing Works did a study. They looked at what the future need is for housing, and they came to the conclusion that Rhode Island needs about 40,000, up to 40,000 units of housing by 2025. That's not that far away. And so to the extent that we want to attract jobs, and we have been doing that a bit, we need places for people to live. And so you want to do that in a way that's sustainable, that's not going to contribute to congestion on the highways. And so we looked at where are those locations throughout the state where they lend themselves to transit-oriented development. And I'm not suggesting that just because we've found them that it's just going to happen like that. There are some things that have to happen at the local level and the state level in order to realize that.
So how did you get to those steps? Let's talk a little bit, especially about the student involvement,
Sure.
Looking at those 5 cities, really identifying those areas. I mean, how did this kind of get off the ground?
Yeah, so we started about a year ago, and we worked with 2 teams of students, one in the fall semester, one in the spring semester, where the first group really did more of a GIS analysis of what are the conditions that support transit-oriented development? What are the things you need to have in place? Then the second group of students, we narrowed the field of places we looked at, and then they divided into teams of 4 and 5, and they did a deep dive into those communities to really study them and to see, look at the constraints, environmental and otherwise, infrastructure. Where could we achieve housing, additional housing? And they actually come up with, in those 5 communities, 73,000 new housing units, the capacity for them. So it's there. We have to activate that.
And so what were some of the challenges, as you said, when you looked at the combination of looking at housing and transportation opportunities? How much of the state will have to be a stakeholder in this process? And should there be a bigger look, or should it happen at the very local level?
It needs to happen at both the local level and the state level. So a lot of communities have their own comprehensive community plan, and they actually embrace the idea of encouraging housing and development in these locations already. That's a first, because this is not about telling local communities where to build. And so then you have to look at what is the responsibility at the state level. In order for transit-oriented development to work, called TOD for short, you need the T. And so, yes, we have to up our game when it comes to how our transit system works, because that's just an essential component. And the good news is that our state is right now in the process of looking at our transit system from top to bottom to imagine what it could be in the future. So the timing is really good to look at how the transit system is working and can work, and how do we make that work with development.
So you've got the survey. We'll provide the link. You've got the paper copy in front of you here. But if you want to go through and see what was produced again by GrowSmart and Roger Williams, what next? What now?
So now we're getting the word out, and we're talking to the communities, and we're using the data in here to be making the case, for example, for the state to become more of an active partner with municipalities for the needed infrastructure. So one example that I can give you of our neighboring states are actually doing a lot in this regard, and so we look to Massachusetts. We can all identify with downtown Attleboro, right? It's not too far from Rhode Island. And the case in Attleboro is they had a comprehensive plan that called for greater development right around their train station. They had a developer that was interested in helping them to implement that, but they had a huge hurdle, and that was the infrastructure.
Okay.
They needed a bigger pipe, essentially, and so they went to the state. Massachusetts has a program that Rhode Island is trying to emulate to assist municipalities with infrastructure in those types of locations. They got the grant, they put the pipe in, the developer put the building up, multifamily residential building, and it's 100% occupied. And now that developer's working on building 2 and 3. So this can happen. We see it happening right across our border, and we're hopeful that in Rhode Island we'll be able to follow suit.
So what was the de facto pipe that Attleboro needed?
They needed a sewer pipe.
Literally a sewer pipe.
A sewer pipe. Because in that case, their infrastructure was very old, and it was outdated, and they needed something that was
What,
that
New
had
England
more
has
capacity.
old infrastructure?
Yes, we do. We have a lot of old infrastructure.
So you talk about the proximity to existing transportation angles. Let's talk a little bit. We know Pawtucket and Central Falls, for instance, are looking at an opportunity for growth there. Does that have potential?
It does. So Pawtucket and Central Falls are going to get a new bus hub and a train station combined in one location in 2020 and 2022, respectively. The trains will come in 2022. And so they've got about 2 million square feet of underutilized or vacant mill space right within the quarter-mile walk shed of that station. So it's an opportunity there, but they need to, and together, the city and the state need to make the investments in the infrastructure so that it will attract the private development. That's what it's about.
So when I said next steps in talking with folks and stakeholders about this report, is this going to be taking up the lion's share of your time? What else can we expect from GrowSmart in 2019?
So we have a busy legislative agenda, but one of the things on that agenda is to get the Municipal Infrastructure Grant Program funded. The legislature
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yes, well, it all does tie together. And so we're looking to advance the transit agenda. We have to have better transit. We have to have access to resources for the infrastructure that's necessary. I mean, this kind of thinking is not going to just evolve on its own. The state and the municipalities have to be partners to make it happen. But I think that the one thing we do know is that the municipalities do already embrace the concept. That's what they want for their communities. We just have to connect the dots to be able to make it happen.
As you said, get the requisite pipes, and literally sometimes that can be sewer pipes.
Exactly.
Well, John Flaherty with GrowSmart, I appreciate your taking the time to come
Thank
in.
you, Kate.
If you're interested in the report, we'll of course provide a link to it as well, and hopefully we'll have you back in soon.
Terrific.
Okay, John
Thanks
Flaherty,
very much.
Thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with our last guest here in the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center.